Should you buy Modern Warfare 3? Well, yes, but no. It depends on what you actually want from the game, but I think myself, I'll be personally getting it just to see what it looks like, because if it ends up not being that good, this could be the end of Call of Duty, as we know it. With less than 2 months left before release, many like myself are keeping an eye on what's going on with Modern Warfare 3. What most likely began as a DLC to the Modern Warfare 2, the game appears to just have adjusted game mechanics and a few pieces of new content here and there. The issue is, it almost seems as if they're charging us $70 just to implement game mechanics the players just wanted in the beginning, instead of adding it to the core game. But despite how it looks, everyone on Twitter seems to think this will be the Call of Duty to bring the community back, and better than before. But why? Well, according to Ralph's Valve on Twitter, this year's game development utilized the strengths of all three of the biggest teams. Infinity Ward is in charge of the development of the campaign, which shouldn't be surprising. Though these series of games take place inside of the Black Ops universe, from what it seems, Modern Warfare 2019 showed us that the stories being told in these games are still important to the community, especially with channels like Inkslasher, who keep many up to date with the story, making you understand how war really is and how it spreads, showing us how small little events during the Cold War still have an effect on their world in the modern day. Speaking of the story, Modern Warfare 3 so far seems to be taking some liberties by showing Verdansk still intact and not destroyed by the previously assumed nuke. As Inkslasher brought up, there are two options for this to be the case, that being potentially a small nuke was used, not causing as much destruction as we thought, or the much more controversial option, that being zombies isn't canon to the main story. More recent news suggests the latter option with the return of Viktor Zakayev, who we saw Price throw off in the nuke silo, which again leaves us with the option of, is this an Alex situation where he didn't die on screen, so he's not dead, or did this event just not happen in the main continuity? I don't have any particular preference, but I am more leaning towards separate continuities, simply because the existence of the zombie virus might cause issues going forward with the story, given the previous stories lean heavily into sci-fi involving time travel and a whole number of other shenanigans. The only way I could see zombies fitting into the canon is if the storyline has an actual ending at some point to prevent the continuity errors that are Black Ops 3 and 4 not having zombies anywhere inside of their world during that time. On that note, Treyarch, unsurprisingly, will be taking back control of the series, with a new twist, as this version of zombies will be using the DMZ format, allowing players to drop in, complete objectives in the exfil. Of course, as cool of a mode as it sounds, many of us are still hoping that the round-based zombies still makes a reappearance later in the life cycle. It feels like they could simply play ground war with this situation and just take the small little areas on whatever this new map is and sort of shrink them down, while also trying to keep story relevance to what those events are. Sledgehammer is supposedly making the multiplayer, which is what many are worried about given Vanguard's issues and how broken World War II was on release, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Personally, there are a few things from those older games that I would like to see return going forward, that being unlockable operators, not just for one skin. One of the biggest reasons I enjoyed playing those older Call of Duties was the ability to unlock skins the same way you unlocked camos, and it promoted players to spend more time in the games as another challenge to complete. I understand Activision wants to stick with the microtransaction system, but they can easily coexist, which for some reason developers don't seem to realize. Black Ops 3, we had a mixture of unlockable camos with campaign, multiplayer, and zombies, while also offering black market only camos, which is a microtransactional situation. In fact, while not the only reason many still play the game, Black Ops 3 was one of the games where the developers actually seemed to have fun, adding dumb weapons and emotes that made the game have personality, while the more modern games have been stripped down to their most basic forms. Although I figure that's just not of monetary interest to Activision, because why allow you to have fun when you can buy your fun in a game that already costs $70? Other than that issue, I'm hoping to see similar gunplay to 2019, just with smaller, more tactical maps to prevent the same camping issues from back then. Of course, we have to ask, what maps will be reappearing. And if I were a betting man, I expect we'll see another shipment because that's just the grinder's map. While many feel it takes away from the other maps, it's a situation of people wouldn't only choose shipment if the other maps were designed well enough to grind on. I also suspect we'll end up seeing Rust as well, just with a new location likely to look distinguished from the 2019 version. I actually look forward to how these new remastered maps are going to look and play like. We also have a few questions of what guns are going to be introduced because, as it stands, all operators, guns, etc. are cross-compatible with Modern Warfare 3, just staying within their own lane where you can't, put camos from one set of guns onto these new set of guns and vice versa. But it makes you have to question, is this game still going to include your basics like the M4s, the MP5s, things of that sort, or will this game focus more on introducing more niche weapons to change up the gameplay, weapons that most players don't usually play with, things that haven't already been introduced to Modern Warfare 2. Of course, with the introduction of new maps and new weapons into the game, you have to wonder, how's this going to affect the competitive side of the game? As for the past few years, we've had sort of this thing called skill-based matchmaking affecting the game that makes casual play not work as well, because now you're suddenly having to fight people that are always at your skill level, which a lot of people have brought up. That doesn't really promote any casual gameplay because it feels like you're playing in competitive matches every single round, and it gets annoying. Many others like to think that it's actually beneficial to new players in the game, but it really isn't, as they are never required to actually increase their skill, as they can just simply continue to play, or do worse, to just play with those same players over and over again. It promotes no room for growth or learning new techniques by looking at these kill cams, etc. Of course, the reason I bring this up is because competitive usually doesn't fare well with the introduction of weird, bizarre weapons. They usually just work with whatever the casual weapons at the time are. So it makes you have to wonder, how is the competitive scene actually going to take this new game, especially as well as we have new game mechanics. So that means that they're going to have to adjust once again to whatever the new meta is during that time. You may have noticed that this entire time I have not mentioned Warzone, and that's specifically because I don't really see Warzone as a part of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I mostly see it as its own game, as it's a free thing that anybody else can pick up. And if you want to see me actually comment on Warzone, I might make a video on it later, mostly because I'm not really into the whole Warzone area. I was more into it during 2020, but that's really it. I've always been a multiplayer player at heart for this game. I'm not really that keen on other game modes, as I've been more of a TDM player myself, especially on hardcore, but we'll likely see some new modes or returning ones. We'll just have to see in the beta coming out soon. If I end up liking how it feels, I likely will end up getting the game myself, but as it stands, there is a lot Activision can improve on, and if this game falls as flat as the past 3 titles, this may be the end of Call of Duty for a while, or at least until someone else comes and tries to fix it, because despite what many think, Microsoft doesn't have any control over the games just yet. I'll see you all in October to try out the game, but I remember how I felt about Cold War's beta test, and I ended up not really liking the multiplayer when I actually got to play the game itself. So, we're just gonna have to see about that. If you want to see more Call of Duty videos, just let me know by liking this video. Comment below what you want from Modern Warfare 3 and whether you're going to be getting the game or not. I'm sick and need sleep, so I'll see you boys in the next one. Matane.